Live.
I can't get the warning.
Live.
Wow, no warning.
Yeah, I just hope it just came down.
Okay, you're on.
Oh, it's coming down.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Miller, and welcome to the Volunteer Times Lafollette City Council Public Forum. There will be 4 questions asked of each candidate, and 3 questions asked of each candidate from the public. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to answer the question. When a candidate gets to 50 seconds, there will be a 10-second call informing candidates their time is almost over. Candidates are given a bank of 7 full minutes during the Q&A session. However, if you go over 1 minute per question, you are warned that you are cutting into your time allotted to answer other questions. If you take less time to answer a question, you are banking the seconds and adding to your time for further use. During the last question, you will be told your remaining total time as to utilize it in its entirety if needed. This will not change each candidate's allotted final 90-second close. That time will not be modified, but Q&A time may be. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our candidates. If you will please raise your hand as I call out your name. We have first Lonnie Wilson, Hot Rod Lonnie Wilson, Hansford Hatmaker, Joe Bollinger, Philip Farmer, Bill Archer, Keith Cordell, Sonia Lee, and Mike Evans. Let's go ahead and get started here with our first question. And how I will do this is I will pull a name out of the hat so as to keep it fair, and then I will ask that person question number 1. So we will go ahead and start now. And our first question goes to Keith. Keith. Question 1. As a candidate, what do you feel that you personally can bring to Lafollette City Council that will stand out, benefit the city, and separate you from other candidates?
Bring our city back to where it needs to be at, bring the trust back, cut on speeding.
Start over, Mike, with your microphone, please. There you go.
Bring trust back, cut on spending, stop wasting, let people see that their city's growing and doing better by the way we're doing our job.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Phil, as a candidate, what do you feel that you personally can bring to Lafollette City Council that will stand out, benefit the city, and separate you from other candidates?
Tell you the truth, I have no idea, but I just feel like I can help the city some by doing some few things that needs to be done and helping the city all we can. And just work with the council and see what we can all get done and stay together with everything.
Thank you. Next question goes to Joe Bollinger. Joe, as a candidate, what do you feel that you personally can bring to the Lafollette City Council that will stand out, benefit the city, and separate you from other candidates?
Well, as many of you know, I've served on council previously. One thing I'd like to see happen is that bring more harmony and accord between all members of the council and the administration. We need that if we're going to move forward and get things done. That'd be a great asset if that can happen. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Evans. As a candidate, what do you feel that you personally can bring to the Lafallette City Council that will stand out, benefit the city, and separate you from other candidates?
Well, I think my big difference that I have is I have a lot of corporate experience, over 20-some years in middle and upper management. I think my viewpoint on different items are going to be different than what has been done in the past. And I think that's my strong point of bringing in the ability to look outside the four walls, to look outside tried and true methods of doing things that may be a little different than local governments do, because the private sector is so much different than the government sector. I would like to bring that experience to the council to look at things a little bit different. Let's look at some options. Let's constantly be looking at things, you know, to improve the city as a whole. I think that would be one of the strong points that I bring.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Hatmaker. Question 1. As a candidate, what do you feel that you personally can bring to the Lafallette City Council that will stand out, benefit the city, and separate you from other candidates?
As a candidate for city council in the city of Lafallette, I feel like that pretty well, or we pretty well have accomplished the most of things that the city has got today. We've accomplished that during my period of 22 years on the city council. Been with the 911 board. We started it. We built a new library, and I feel, and a lot of other things that we've done. Stayed on the boards. I'm the vice mayor for 3 or 4 years, and helped with all the department heads, with accounting, with the budget, and all of this. And so I feel like that my leadership will can pretty well outrule most of our candidates.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Archer. As a candidate, what do you feel that you personally can bring to the Lafallette City Council that will stand out, benefit the city, and separate you from other candidates?
Experience and knowing what grants and how to obtain them. And we've got projects going, we've got road projects, we've got a lot of projects that need to be continued. And I think that with my experience that we could keep them going.
Thank you. All right. As a candidate, what do you feel that you personally can bring to the Lafallette City Council that will stand out, benefit the city, and separate you from other candidates?
First thing is my willingness to work with the council members and all the department heads, the experience that I have in the politics and running of the city in the last 4 years. We've came a long way, and we've built up the city, and we've got a whole lot more to do. And I think it just, like the others said, we got to have harmony in our city and in our city council and between our departments.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ms. Lee. As a candidate, what do you feel that you personally can bring to the Lafallette City Council that will stand out, benefit the city, and separate you from other candidates?
Well, for me, I have a combination of my business degree and my corporate experience, and just the willingness to hear the people out. I plan on having my cell phone published so that the city Lafall citizens can actually get a hold of me, and my email as well. I'd like to expand on what Mr. Bollinger said about harmony within our city council. What sets me apart from some of my other competitors is I think the only way that we can have true harmony in our city council is if we stop the corruption and the backroom deals, and we stop trying to line their own pockets and start working for the people. Once you start working for the people and doing what's best for our citizens, then we can come together as a cohesive unit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, candidates. That was question number 1. We will go ahead and move on to question number 2. And out of the hat, it is Mr. Hot Rod Wilson. Question 2. If there was one thing you could change about Lafollette City or the Lafollette City government, what would it be? And please elaborate if you can.
Well, I wish I could change that the money flow would be a whole lot easier than it is, but I can't. The state grants are long and lengthy. We can't change that, but we can change the attitude of the people that work for us, and our own attitude, and progress forward. And it's just a long process. City government doesn't work like on the outside. It works totally different. It runs slow. So we tried to speed it up the best we could the last 4 years, and we've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Archer, question number 2. If there was one thing you could change about Lafollette City or Lafollette City government, what would it be? Please elaborate.
That's a rather difficult question. We have a charter that needs to be updated. It needs to be gone through and a lot of things pulled out, some new things added. It's a difficult process sometimes, and we all understand that. But wheels of government are slow to turn, and more so than in the city than dealing with the state and the federal levels on every grant and everything else. So if we could speed them up, it would help. But I don't see that process increasing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hatmaker, question number 2. If there was one thing you could change about Lafollette City or Lafollette City government, what would it be? Please elaborate.
If there's one thing I could change, that would be the power struggle that we have in the city of Lafall. We've got a power struggle here. We've got money to operate with, and we've got people that knows how to do it, but we've got a problem with the power structure. And that'd be the first thing that I'd change. And I would audit the city. If I'm elected as city council, the first thing I'm going to do is call for an audit, find out where the money's at and how much money we've got, and we know how to operate from there. But we've got a bad power struggle, and it's very easy to correct if the people would abide by the charter. Thank you.
Ms. Lee, if there was one thing you could change about the Lafollette City or Lafollette City government, what would it be? And please elaborate.
Well, Al, that's a really good question, and one that's been needed to be asked for a long time. I've heard a lot about charters and power struggles, but very little about what the people need If I was elected to city council, the first thing I would do, I would find a grant available through the Government Cares program to build a homeless shelter for our most needy citizens, as well as a drug treatment facility for the most heartbreaking addicts and their stories that I've had the misfortune of witnessing as I've talked to people in this town. These are people that desperately need our help, not our scorn, but our help. Lastly, what I would do is I would build a community center. Our youth need us to be engaged in their futures. If we're not engaged in their futures with a community center, then that's why we're losing our youth at a rapid pace. Thank you.
And next up, Mr. Cordell. If there was one thing you could change about the Lafollette City or Lafollette City government, what would it be? Please elaborate.
First thing would be to let the taxpayers know that they are the ones that own the city, not 5 people that sit behind a desk. They're the ones that we have to look out for, not put them aside, put them in the loop, let them know what's going on all the time at every meeting when they need to know what's going on, where our money's at.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Evans. If there is one thing you could change about Lafollette City or Lafollette City government, what would it be? Please elaborate.
Thank you. Well, I hear a lot of good questions about one thing to change and one priority at different times. It's always a number one or a number two things you want done. Here I am. I'm on the outside looking in. I've been in large corporations, multi-divisional corporations. You can't concentrate on one thing. You have to look at the big picture constantly. If you get over-focused on one thing, you're going to lose sight of everything else. So what I'm trying to say is, instead of me wanting to change anything, there's one member of the council, I cannot do that. It has to be a combined effort of the council. So I can't tell you I'm going to change one thing. I can provide leadership, I can provide ideas and different things along that lines, but I can't change anything by myself. It has to be a combined leadership and role in the council. There's a lot of transparency that I would like to see. I'd like to see more departments reporting in open forum at the city council meetings. I think the citizens need to know where the city stands at any given time, every month or at least every 5 months. That's where I viewpoint on the one item. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Bollinger. If there is one thing you could change about the Lafollette City or Lafollette City government, what would it be? Please elaborate.
Well, like I said earlier, we need more harmony between all council members and the people that work for the city. The one important thing is that we need to clean our city up. We need to beef up our codes and stuff, and we need to have someone that will really get out there and take a look at things and see that these places are cleaned up more so than what's being done now. We need to have more meetings with the planning commission. So I think this year we've only had 3 planning commission meetings, possibly 4 for the whole year. Thank you.
And Mr. Farmer, question number 2. If there was one thing you could change about Lafollette City or Lafollette City government, what would it be? Please elaborate.
Well, I've lived here 69 years almost, and I've seen a lot of things come and go, and a lot of changes. There's some changes we need to get done, and then I just can't specify only one item. There's more than one. And I just like to see the streets all get paved and the drainage get cleaned out. And just people just holler and go on. You hear people talk. That's the one thing they want to talk about, the drainage. And we need just to get that straightened out and just try to keep everybody happy in the town. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We will move on to question 3. First up for question 3 is Ms. Lee. Being that most industrial land within our county is in Caravel and Jellicoe, do you currently have a plan to attract and retain local businesses to the city of Lafollette?
You're on fire with these questions today. Actually, yes, I do. In order for businesses to come back to our town, we need to give them tax breaks, not only on their sales tax, but tax breaks on their land as well, and building breaks. Work with these local businesses to open up their small businesses here and revitalize our town. There's no reason why Walmart should have had to move to Jacksboro the way it did. There's no reason why our small businesses are fleeing from Lafallette. I've had several people who've begged to open up small businesses, but the current and former city council has made it almost impossible for that to happen. I want to stop the PAC money, pay for play, and start giving them tax breaks so that they can move into our town and revitalize our town and give us more job opportunities. Thank you.
Mr. Farmer, being that most industrial land within our county is in Caravel and Jellicoe, do you currently have a plan to attract and retain local businesses to the city of Lafollette?
No, I do not have a plan as of right now. And if I get elected to city council, I can get in and work together with everybody and see what we can get in Lafollette. There's a lot of things that should come in here that needs to come in here, that people are working again. And we just don't have the willpower to work anymore. People don't in Campbell County or Lafall.
Mr. Bollinger, question number 3. Being that most industrial land within our county is in Caravel and Jellicoe, do you currently have a plan to attract and retain local businesses to the city of Lafollette?
Well, as everyone knows, we, in the last few years, initiated downtown revitalization projects using grants, mostly to do that, to kind of beautify and bring our city sidewalks and everything up to par. And as far as the industry is concerned, we don't have a lot of industrial land inside the city. We need to work with our county officials and other cities and maybe partnership with them to help get more industry into the county. If it's in one part of the county, it still helps the other part. And I think that'd be a good thing. Thank you.
Mr. Evans, question number 3. Being that most industrial land within our county is in Caravel and Jellicoe, do you currently have a plan to attract and retain local business to the city of Lafollette?
Thank you, that's a good question. A lot of people want to look at recruiting businesses, and the first thing they want to always do is let's go find that 400 or 500 person employer. With the current economic trends right now, we need to not be thinking that line. We need to start thinking more smaller employer-based companies to come in here. I would rather see 10 companies that come in here that employ 20 people apiece to make 200 new jobs than try to spend 3 or 4 years trying to find one company to employ 200. We need to get in contact with companies up north that are in hostile situations with their state and local governments that are looking to move to the south where more friendly state and local governments are, where the workforce is better. I think that's the route we need to go. We need to target industries and employers that are medium growth and even small that have the potential to grow once they get here, and then we can supply them with needed facilities, location, expertise, and along that lines. Now, when you start getting into offering tax cuts, most of your tax base is controlled at the state level and the federal level. When you get down to county and city levels, there's not a whole lot of tax breaks that you can actually give because you're mandated by the state tax codes and you're mandated by the federal tax code. So you have to watch about promising certain tax code easements to companies at the local level unless you have the state buying on it, because you could be promising something that you can never deliver. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Mr. Archer. Once again, being that most industrial land within our county is in Caryville and Jellicoe, do you currently have a plan to attract and retain local business to the city of Lafallette?
We at present have 26 acres of prime land in Lafollette between the UT Center, Medical Center, and Pizza Hut. That is the city of Lafollette's to be developed. We're also looking at a couple of tracts of possible industrial property. It's industry wants to come here, but you got to have a combination of education. You got to have those facilities the best they want. So we got to coordinate with the county on education, roads, everything. So we're working on it.
Mr. Wilson, being that most industrial land within our county is in Caryville and Jellicoe, do you currently have a plan to attract and retain local business to the city?
Well, the first thing we need to do is paint our buildings downtown, make them attractive to people coming to our town. Also, big businesses are looking for small towns now if they can get the workforce. As Mr. Archer said, we've got the land down there next to UT Medical. We're looking at parcels on Memorial Drive. It's about 24 acres to purchase for an industrial park for the city. But that would, and as Mr. Archer said, education goes a long way, and we have to have the workforce. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Cordell. Being that most industrial land within our county is in Caryville and Jellicoe, do you currently have a plan to attract and retain local business to the city?
With the 26 acres that we have down in Jacksboro Pike, the city should carry the tax for like 3, 4, 5 years to attract the business in and let them build and say, hey, this is kind of a break, and let them build, and they'll have that revenue that they'll make off their profit from not paying the taxes, and that'll draw more business and more jobs into the city. And then it'll make more business come into the city itself and make businesses more property.
Thank you. And Mr. Hatmaker. Being that most industrial land within our county is in Caryville and Jellicoe, do you currently have a plan to attract and retain local business to the city?
At one time, we had an industrial committee for Campbell County. And still Lafollette, Jacksboro, Jellicoe, Caryville, they was all involved in it. And then from that board, we turned around and elected a person out there, or picked a person out of it, that was in their field of bringing in industrial people to the place. So I would go, and it worked. I would go back to that system and holler, let the county, all of us together chip in, help the county pay somebody that did nothing but daily work on that to bring people in. But now, right now, business is tough to get them to come in. So we need that's where we need to go to, and that'll make it stronger than anything we're putting it together.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to question 4, which is the last question of the first half. First up, Mr. Archer. Question number 4. Is there an area of city budgeting that you feel tax dollars are being wasted? If so, what is it, and how would you spend those tax dollars more efficiently?
Well, we have the best bookkeeper and financial manager back in the back offices that won't let you spend anything without a purchase order. And they watch the budget like nobody's business. It's like they're throwing money. And we're in financially good shape. Financially, we're really better shape than we've been in a long time. Revenues, tax revenues are up as a result of, I guess you'd say, the virus. But Lowe's sales tax, the food store sales tax is all above projections. So we're ahead of everything on revenue. I don't see any place where we're spending excessively.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Cordell. Question number 4. Is there an area of city budgeting that you feel tax dollars are being wasted? If so, what is it, and how would you spend those tax dollars?
Well, a lot of people can agree with me on this. There's a lot of tax dollars that's being wasted and spent and blowed. Like the lights we have down on the Central there, $30,000 for lights. You could have went down to Walmart and bought for $300 and spent the $30,000 somewhere else. I mean, think about it. Who drives by there and says, "Oh, look at those pretty lights we got"? How many people see that?
Thank you. Mr. Evans, is there an area of city budgeting that you feel tax dollars are being wasted? If so, what is it, and how would you spend those tax dollars?
Okay, I was glad you asked that question because I've been waiting for the financial side, so thank you. As I stated last Friday, I've looked at the city budgets. I've looked at their expenditures. I actually have copies of everything right here. I've spent a couple of weeks going through them. The city is very stout on their financials. We can say there's money wasted here, money wasted there. When you actually look at the numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, I have been for 3.5 decades. I look at numbers, I look at flows, and I look at revenue points. The city of Lafollette is stout for what they bring in. I know we've had a lot of mentions. It's a $14 million annual budget. No, it's a $14 million general fund balance sheet that you're looking at. A balance sheet is different than a budget. There's two different things. A balance sheet shows where all your revenue is and all your money. Well, that $14 million that's sitting in the general fund on the balance sheet, 5.2 million of that is generated from grants and proceeds from different grants that's already been in place since 2016. We're not going to change that. That money is done allocated, so it's sitting over there. The true annual budget, when you look at actual revenue to expenditures for the city, is $9.1 million. And of that $9.1 million, we're spending it wisely so far. And with the way 2020 has been, we don't know what 2021 is going to be looking like, but our revenues are strong. We don't need to be bringing on any other extra projects. I know everyone always wants to build something. They always want to build something that's grand. Well, my first question has always been, how are you going to pay for it? You've got to have the money ahead of time to pay for it. A lot of these grants are 80-20 grants. We don't have a lot of money in these projects. We don't. Not when you look at the physical outlay and the return on investment capital that we're getting for it. We're good. I look at the hard fact numbers. I always have. The city is fine. We can tweak a few budget line items. We can maybe get some improvements on some contracts that we're doing in pricing structure, but the city is financially strong. It's stout.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Farmer, question 4. Is there an area of city budgeting that you feel tax dollars are being wasted? If so, what is it, and how would you spend those tax dollars?
I think the city is in pretty good shape as it is today, as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And we have no problem. We got money in the coffers, I understand that. And I think we're doing really good for what we've got and what we can do with. Thank you.
Mr. Bollinger, same question. Is there an area of city budgeting that you feel tax dollars are being wasted? If so, what is it, and how would you spend them?
I too have looked at the budget and the fund balance, and like Mr. Evans said, I don't see the waste there at all. I think that it's been spent pretty much wisely. One thing that I would like to see, you know, if there's room in that budget in future years to maybe bring some salaries up in some of the departments that I think are kind of underpaid. Thank you.
Mr. Hatmaker, question number 4. Is there an area of the city budget that you feel tax dollars are being wasted? If so, what is it, and how would you spend those tax dollars?
My opinion is, I think that what we do today, we've got, if I'm not bad mistaken, we've got 29 police officers. Each one of these gentlemen drives a vehicle home with them. If they live in Jellicoe, if they live in Knoxville, doesn't make any difference. They drive these vehicles home with them. It costs us money to keep them vehicles up. They'll put more mileage on them, driving them back and forth to work than they do on the job. This needs to be looked into, and we need to check it very closely. But now the people that works and called in the city, then I'm for them having a car. But now if they're not called in and they're making transportation out of this vehicle, I'm not for it. It needs to be looked into, and the city police department is one of the most expensive departments that we have in the city.
Thank you very much. Next up, Mr. Wilson. Is there an area of city budgeting that you feel tax dollars are being wasted? If so, what is it, and how would you spend those tax dollars?
We do have a financial management system in place. We do get a report every month on the department head spending and what's budgeted to them. Our financial management guy will not let them go over. And we've not, as far as I know, we've not ever since the 4 years I've been there went over budget. And it's a real sound, as Mr. Evans said, we operate not on 14 million, we operate on 9 million annual budget. And it's kept up with pretty closely. Thank you.
And last, Ms. Lee, same question. Is there an area of city budgeting that you feel tax dollars are being wasted? If so, what is it? And how would you spend those tax dollars?
Well, the one area of government that I think we waste the most money is the type of grants that we are going after. The grants like the beautification project that gave us the wonderful, illustrious flower boxes downtown and that are more of a hazard than they are of any sort of beautification. Grants like this is wasteful. We have to, yes, it's an 80-20, so we only put in 20%, but still, we could go after a grant to feed the homeless, or we can go after a grant to get our firemen and our police officers better equipment or body cams. Or how about this? How about we put cameras in City Hall? You know, we have them in the police station. Why not have them in every department in City Hall? But we can do this if we stop going after these wasteful, idiotic grants that don't impact the citizens at all.
Okay, thank all of you. That is the end of the first half. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and also we'll
give them their time, how much time they got left?
We will, yes.
And I will also let you know how much time you have left for the next remaining 3 questions when we come back from a 10-minute break. So if anybody needs to get up, stretch, use the restroom.
What, PCGS, PC don't have it. You probably didn't get this, somewhere $65. State said, back in the winter, I was down in Georgia. I would take 40-something that thing. You can't touch it. Big, I mean, I couldn't go $42 in the 4 hours.
Still in your seat.
You ain't bought none of them?
I'm gonna explain what to do.
Right.
I got 2 or 3 of them off eBay. I got them real cheap. I gave $95. Free shipping and everything. Yeah, they're 2, 3, $400.
It's just. Yeah, I mean, when I put their name in, I can go, here's the questions, all of them. See, and I can put them in a small window, like this one, that one. small window here where you can see it, but when I put their name up,
Kill the question.
yeah,
That's fine, nobody knows who they are.
yeah. So I can still put the question up. I think at this point, we might as well.
What he worth? What he worth? I don't know. I got a bunch of them. They'll do more than that. You got the box and everything? I can remember. You got the box and everything, you can get $10 less. But those are pretty cool. I tell you what, them, I mean, I've got one of them years. Well, two of them years, I've got 5 of them in some of them. But those reverse creeks, like, I'm gonna sell everything like that. You ain't reverse creeks, $1.5.
Hatmaker has. Whoever that girl is with the microphone's doing so good.
My dad.
Does Hatmaker need this one? Yes, he does. And you got everything for it right now. I'll explain to him really loud. Okay. I was like, 2 minutes is up.
Minutes over here. What's he doing?
So far, you're good. I think so far, you're good. Patrick, he filled something in his minutes.
There's coffee back here if anybody would like some.
Do what now? Ellis? Okay. Thank you. Huh?
No, just
Oh, you
three.
pick out 3 you want. Pick out the 3 you want.
That means I get 5:15 at the last,
No, for these 3 questions, and you'll get 90 seconds. Very.
so I get 5 minutes, I get 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, that's where you're at. Answer. It's true. What you got? You'll get 3, so you're close. You're close, you're good enough. That's slow. It won't be. Well, I don't know what's warning.
I totally understand that.
We gotta give them, if that's the thing, we gotta give them time. And feel them, you'll get some, dirt in them or whatever, and put some flour in them, and keep somebody thinking and pruning them and everything else. That's the job, I'm trying to say. Hey, I want them to all do good. There's always been some block.
Here's one, sir.
It's a tech breaks, or camera breaks. That's the business in the camera. I'm not eating.
2 minutes.
2 minutes left on the break. 2 minutes on break.
Kevin Rutherford.
Some coffee, Bill? Well, can I have some coffee? Want a cup of coffee? Okay. Okay.
Thanks anyway.
Or just go to make sure you want it. Just holler out your numbers. 1 minute. Get your places.
1 minute remaining, so we can come back.
I think we got the mic thing.
I turned mine off, you turned yours off.
That's right.
It worked perfect.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I will explain the second half of our program to our candidates and to the large amount of viewers that are watching this forum. The second round will consist of 3 questions submitted by the public. I will draw a name out of the hat, and that person will get to choose any one of those questions to answer. You've all been given how much time you have left to answer 3 questions. So we will have a round of 3 questions. So when I call your name, you can choose any of those questions. Tell me which number you're going to answer so I can read it off for our viewers. So if you're going to read question 6, if you're going to try to answer that one, please let me know. I will read it, and then you will have however much of your time left is to answer that. And you would need to split your time up between 3 questions because this is a 3-question round.
Okay. Go ahead and draw.
Okay, first up is Mr. Hot Rod Wilson. Please tell me which question you are going to answer. Number 9. To everyone at home, number 9 is, if elected, do you have any plans for the revitalization of downtown Lafallette? If so, please elaborate on your vision and plan.
We've already did phase 1 of the revitalization of downtown. We got phase 2, 3 to go, and it's coming on board during the spring. We'll have new sidewalks downtown in portions, and we have new sidewalks going down Indiana Avenue, and they will extend the 3rd phase will extend up, if I'm not too wrong, about up to North Indiana. And then on phase 3, it will have new sidewalks on Tennessee Avenue all the way to Tank Springs. Thank you.
Next up, Miss Lee, could you please tell me which question? Number 7. What will you, as a council member, do to prevent and deal with local corruption if found?
Well, first of all, to prevent local corruption, what you would need to do is do a complete evaluation of each department, both job performance and seniority as well as experience, and kind of, if you're not qualified for the job, then we will replace you. That's gonna weed out a lot of the corruption that's in there right now from people being put in position that had no business being in position to begin with. The second part of that, what to do if corruption is found, simple. You fire them, you arrest them. If you are found stealing from the taxpayers, then you should go to jail. No paying, the city back, or sliding it underneath the table, or, everybody, would want to do that then if it was possible.
Thank you. And I didn't mention this, so real quick. You can choose a question that someone else has already answered. You don't have to pick one that has not been answered. Next up, Mr. Farmer, which question will you answer?
I'll try number one.
Number one. What is your 4-year vision for the city of Lafollette?
Well, we need my vision is to get the streets in order and get the sidewalks in order and get all the trash picked up and make everything, make the streets look good on the side streets and like Beach Street, Indiana Avenue, Tennessee Avenue. And we gotta get all the litter and trash picked up all the time and get the drains fixed, like I said before.
Thank you very much. Mr. Evans, which question will you be answering? Number four. Number four is, what was the primary reason or motivation that led you to make the decision to run for city council? And just how do you plan to satisfy that reasoning?
My primary motivation for running for city council at this time is I want to look out for the future of our kids. I have 10 grandchildren. I want to leave something that's in better shape for them long after I'm gone. And my motivation is maybe if I can possibly come up with ideas that are different, that are outside the normal box, by having the experience of dealing with large, complex issues, we can move the city farther along. And by saying that, I'm saying this. We can have goals. We can have goals for new structures, new buildings. But the first thing you have to ask yourself is, one, how you pay for it. Two, is it realistic? Is the goal attainable? And how are you going to measure the process of start to finish on that? I want to see the city grow. My vision 4 years from now would be to leave this city at a position where it is the gold standard for other cities of our size for them to follow us. And we can do that if we just all concentrate and stay focused and stay financially fit.
Thank you. Mr. Hatmaker, which question will you be answering? Which one? Number 3, Lafallette. Lafallette City Council has had a reputation of not always working together in many cases, but dividing alliances. If elected, will you build a coalition and consciences with fellow council rather than create division? If so, how do you plan to work with all council to benefit the citizens of the city?
In most cases, if you've got a difference between 2 or 3 council members, it doesn't make any difference. But that's the reason that you have as many as you have, is because to negotiate with. And if you've got council members and if they won't negotiate with you, there's not very much you can do about it. But bring it up during a period of time like this. But in most cases, it can be worked out because the people, in most cases that runs for council is the people that's concerned about the city, and sometimes they get a little out of shape or bent, whatever what you want to call it. But we end up working together, putting it together and pulling it together, and then you've got a good council if you can do that.
Thank you. Mr. Bollinger, what question will you be answering? Number 6 for the folks at home. How would you address a confrontational citizen who contacts you with a complaint that you may or may not even have been responsible for?
First off, I would give them time to speak and say what they wanted to say, and once they finished, I'd talk to them, try to calm them down, find out what the problem is that they're having, if it's something that the city's done or something that the city needs to do. Take a look at it, assure them that we pass it, that I would pass it on to the city administrator and let him go through the challenge of the proper people and see if it can be resolved.
Mr. Archer, which number?
2.
Number 2 for the folks at home. Historically, Lafollette government has at times earned a reputation for uncivil behavior during meetings, such as name-calling and accusations. On occasions, these exceed the meetings and the council chambers. How would you address a situation where there were fellow council members acting uncivilized towards you?
Fortunately, I haven't had that situation. I've seen it happen quite often here lately, but nothing is so far toward me. So I haven't really had to deal with that. But we do have situations where it's getting a little bit out of hand. And I always try to be a peacemaker, having umpired baseball games and everything. You've been in every situation you can think of. So, but that's about it. I've just not been associated with having to deal with any direct toward me so far.
Thank you. Mr. Cordell, which question? Number 1 for everyone at home. What is your 4-year vision for the city of Lafollette?
A 4-year vision for the city of Lafollette. First, we got to remember the city is not 2 blocks. It's almost 7 miles. 7 miles of the city, not just painting a building and making it look pretty and picking up litter and making it look good. That's not what it's about. It's about spending money on things that last for years. Like the trees that tore down, that was within years. They could have put shrubbery up and they would have lasted for 30 years. You don't have to water them. And if you put money where it's supposed to be instead of wasting money on things that shouldn't be, then we could give our city a festival once a year, maybe twice a year, with hands down, without no cost, and everybody would be happy in the end.
Thank you. And that is everyone. Now we go on to a second question. There are 3 total, so now I will put the names back in the hat, and I will draw a name, and then you are let me know the number. Starting with Mr. Evans. What number? Number 5 for the citizens at home. Please give us a description of what you feel the role of City Council is in the governing of Lafollette.
I think the main role of the member of the City Council of Follette, should be a leadership role on looking at all the different avenues of the existing departments and seeing if there is any areas that we can improve on. I think the council needs to be the guiding force of everything that goes on at the city level. There should be, without a doubt, focus and leadership. There should be one common goal on the entire council. What is the best interest of the city? What is the best interest of the citizens? I want to treat the citizens as though they are stockholders. Everyone has a stake in this city, and I think that's the way they should be treated. And I think that's the main role of the city councilman, is to be leadership, stand tall.
Okay, call it time.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Cordell. Number two. Historically, Lafollette government has at times earned a reputation for uncivil behavior during meetings, such as name-calling and accusations. On occasions, these exceed the meetings in the council chambers. How would you address a situation where there were fellow council members acting uncivilized towards you?
As an acting council member, when you walk into a meeting, you're a governing body elected by the people, and you should be an example to the people and let them see your attitude. If they see your attitude, then they're going to have the same attitude that you have. So it's best when we come into chambers to do a meeting, we need to get through a meeting and agree. Yeah, we're going to disagree, but we don't have to get up and name call and slap and kick and box. We have to show the people that we're there for them, and we need to be better at what we do and let the people talk instead of shutting them up and putting them out by the police.
Thank you very much. Next up is Miss Lee. Which question? Number three for the folks at home. Lafollette City Council has had a reputation of not always working together in many cases, but dividing alliances. If elected, will you build a coalition and consciences with fellow council rather than create division? If so, how do you plan to work with all council to benefit the citizens of the city?
Well, the first thing to do, if I was elected, was I would hope that this very humble, wonderful gentleman sitting here to my right was elected with me, Mr. Keith Cordell. Out of everybody sitting up here, me and Keith truly are the only ones that have the people's best interest at heart. You know, I've heard a lot of talk about different things, but Keith and I truly want what's best for the citizens. And I would work with Mr. Hoskins and Ms. Thompson to further that goal of helping the people and getting programs in place that need to be in place. There's too many people now that are, the reason that there's so much bickering in city council right now is people are out for their own self-interests. Instead of being out for what the people need, they're out for what they can get from the people. They're not for the people. Me and Keith are for the people.
Thank you. Mr. Archer, which question? Number 8 for the folks at home. As a council member, how would you address citizens' concerns over the homeless problem, both pros and cons, and where do you stand on the issue of homelessness in downtown Lafallette?
As president, we've got revitalization grants down for downtown, as Hot Rod said. But my vision is to go to the back of the store, like the back of Smith's Hardware, and try to bring them up to one level to where you have handicap accessible, all of those stores on them from the back, rather than having difficulty parking in the front. We have all kinds of parking in the back, so we could do that easily with a sufficient grant. Make the backs almost the fronts.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wilson, which question? Number 4. For the folks at home, what was the primary reason or motivation that led you to make the decision to run for city council, and how do you plan to satisfy that reasoning?
primary reason I seek re-election is to continue the work that we started the last 4 years, continue to see the city grow, update some of our departments more than what they already have, make Lafollette a great place again, and keep the people coming to downtown, have some outings or whatever. We did some last year at Christmas, and we had a good show, and it does a great thing for our citizens, gives them somewhere to go. And we want to build a sports complex for all people to be able to use in the near future. Thank you.
Mr. Bollinger, which question will be answered? Number 4. What was the primary reason or motivation that led you to make the decision to run for city council, and how do you plan to satisfy that reasoning?
Well, as I said before, I've served on council for approximately 10 years, and in doing that, was instrumental in getting a lot of these projects that's ongoing started, such as downtown revitalization and other things, the grants and stuff. I also had a vision for an amphitheater to be built inside the city. Been working on that for several years now. Come up with the idea of the Santa Trot 5K run that we do annually, and we're probably not going to get to have it this year because of the COVID, but we'd like to get back on it next year. I'd like to see those projects through. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Hatmaker. Let me know which question. Number 5. Please give us a description of what you feel the role of city council is in the governing of Lafallette.
Well, when you give a description of the role of a council member, it covers a lot of territory. You've got people that you can help, and that's the purpose of me. And if you've got any other reason, run for city council, you might as well quit tonight, because the only thing you can do is help people and help keep the taxes down, and try to keep good working people, and then take care of your people that you've got working for you. Just like if you, each year in most cases, you've got a longevity that that the state sets down, and you either got to try to match that. If you don't do something with it now, you go 2 or 3 years in a row with it, and then the people has lost money, that much money during the period of time. So it makes you feel good if you sit there and do something for the people or for your employees to where that they can see that you're trying to prosper to help them.
Thank you. And last, Mr. Farmer, what question will you be answering?
Number 4.
Number 4, for the folks at home, what was the primary reason or motivation that led you to make the decision to run for city council, and how do you plan to satisfy that reasoning?
The reason I planned to run for city council was to work for the city of Lafollette and the people of Lafollette, and do what I can to help everybody and make sure everything, all the money is spent wisely and not wasted, and go from there and see what we can do to help the people mostly.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. And for the folks at home, this is our 3rd and final round of questions. After that, each candidate will have a 90-second time to give closing statements. First up on round 3, Miss Lee, which question will you be answering? Number 4 for the folks at home. What was the primary reason or motivation that led you to make the decision to run for city council? And how do you plan to satisfy that reasoning?
My main reason for running for city council is when I moved here, we had just adopted our 2 grandchildren, Camden and Lillian, that are 3 and 4 now. I want them to have a place where they can grow up, raise their family, and maybe even my great-grandchildren. I want to see a town that has so much potential. I want to see it realized. But before we can get to our potential, before we can roll up our sleeves and dig in, we've got to cut the cancer that is killing this town. No longer can we stand by while the good old boys run roughshod over this town with stealing from the taxpayers to pave driveways or, giving good old boys jobs that don't even have a college degree, that have no business being in that job. We have to cure the cancer that is killing this town before we can start rebuilding and doing all the fine things that need to be done.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Hot Rod Wilson, what question? Number 6, for the folks at home, how would you address a confrontational citizen who contacts you with a complaint that you may or may not have been responsible for?
I will listen to the person's complaint, see what they're saying about whatever it is that they're upset about, try to work it out with them. If I can't work it out, then I'll take it on to the city administrator, and we'll see which department that the citizen is tore up about, or who the citizen is confrontational with about, and try to get the matter resolved in a professional manner.
Thank you. Mr. Bollinger, which question? Number 9 for the folks at home. If elected, do you have any plans for the revitalization of downtown Lafollette? If so, please elaborate on your vision and plan.
Well, there's already been much said, about the new sidewalks and all, and it's a great need in downtown Lafollette. I'd also like to see the front of the store buildings and stuff beautified, extend our walking trails, hopefully in the future maybe have a bicycle trail that people wants to ride their bicycles around. That way they don't have to get out in the street with it. We just got a multitude of things like that comes into play, and will probably come to realization, during the different phases of the downtown revitalization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Archer, which question?
Can I go back to number 9?
Yes, sir. It's your final question. If elected, do you have any plans for the revitalization of downtown Lafollette? If so, please elaborate on your vision and plan.
Not only do we have a plan going in place for the revitalization of downtown, but we're looking at downtown. We don't look down the highway at those businesses. We leave them out. And my plan is to put a sidewalk from Lafallette to the Pizza Hut. That way, these people that are on the roads with these motorized wheelchairs will be safely in place on the sidewalk. And our pedestrians who are walking, as y'all know and see every day, somebody is walking down that road. If it's not Larry Jones, it's somebody else. And we got to look out for those people. And that has to be a priority coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Farmer, final question. What number? Number 8. As a council member, how would you address citizens' concerns over the homeless problem, both pro and con, and where do you stand on the issue of homelessness in downtown Lafollette?
I know we have a homeless problem here, and there's people out there that do not have a place to stay or live and have a meal they eat every day or 2 meals a day. And some people just want to be homeless and some of them don't. They just want to have a place to go and chat and sit down and watch TV like every other family member does. And we can help some of them, but we cannot help them all, because some just do not want help at all. They want to be alone. And that's the way it is, just like the hobos used to be years ago. They came through here on trains. They just lived one place to another, and that's what they liked, and that's the way they lived.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Cordell. Which question? Number 4 for the folks at home. What was the primary reason or motivation that led you to make the decision to run for city council? And how do you plan to satisfy that?
This is exactly why I'm sitting here today, because of last June. Everybody knows about the floods and what it done. I've never seen our creek flood, but I've seen our city flood. And the way the drain system is set up, the drain systems are set up for the creek to hold the water in the creek. Now, my question is, we got ditch diggers, we got backhoes, we got dump trucks, but last year they hollered in the middle of the year after it happened, we need to get somebody contracted to clean these drains. They never voted on it. Never voted on it. To me, that shows me that they don't care about the taxpayers. You got to care about your taxpayer. Your taxpayer is the livelihood of the city. If you don't have the taxpayer, you don't got a city. And then your city will fall just like these other places do. And they're crumbs on the streets. They ain't nobody there. They're just dead cities. And they never, not one time said, hey, go clean this, go clean that. I had one by my house cleaned the other day, about 2 weeks ago. 30 years almost that drain had not been cleaned. Water was coming over on my side, coming over on my side. I got a drain in front of my house that I keep clean quarterly. And that's what I'm going to make sure happens. We got a crew, we got the equipment to do it, and it needs to be done quarterly, every 4 to 3 months, to make sure that it's done. And I will make sure that it's done, I can promise you that.
Thank you very much. And last, Mr. Hatmaker. Which question? Number 6 for the folks at home. How would you address a confrontational citizen who contacts you with a complaint that you may or may not have been responsible for?
As a former council member, we have come in several questions that's come in front of us that seemingly that some of the council members and the administrator couldn't solve. And to give you an example on one of them, we took the people from over in another part of the city, we took their cat in, and their dog catcher took it in. We're supposed to keep it for 3 days before that you put them asleep or do anything with them. Well, we did. And they went that evening and put the people's cat to sleep. So they come before the council. There's 3 ladies that was involved with the cat. Okay, so they turn around with the cat. I said, actually, we couldn't come to an agreement of no kind. We couldn't pay them for it. We couldn't replace it. So I made the comment that
You got about 2 more seconds.
Am I max over?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway,
10 seconds.
I took the people and sat down with them, and we worked it out, bought another cat, and solved the problem, so that's,
Thank you very much, Mr. Time Maker.
sorry, run over.
You're good. Okay, that was the end of the final round. Now how it works for those of you at home, each candidate will get 90 seconds uninterrupted to give their final closing statements. And I'll tell you when your 90 seconds is up if you go over. And I will once again pull out of the hat. You'll have 90 seconds of free time. First up is Mr. Cordell.
Most of y'all know that watching, you know I'm a people person. I'll speak to a stranger, I'll talk to anybody. You know, this thing started about 20 years ago when I seen the mess that was going on, the corruption, the backdoor deals, the good old buddy club. If you ain't got what I got, you ain't gonna get what I get. The people, the taxpayers are number one. They're crucial to your city. With me being elected, I can promise you this will not take place. If money's not being spent in the right place, the authorities will be notified. I promise you this. Elect me and you will be satisfied.
Thank you very much. Next up, Miss Lee. 90 seconds.
Well, we've heard a lot of discussion about a lot of different topics tonight. And it may have you, the voters, wondering, you know, what to think. There's one simple question that I want each and every person watching tonight to ask themselves. What do you want for Lafollette? Do you want change? Do you want revitalization? Do you want services for the homeless and the addicted population and something for our children to do, a community center? If you want our streets cleaned up and people to be proud of not only their city government, but the city that they live in, if that's what you want, then I ask that you vote for me. If that's not what you ask, then yeah, take 4 more years of whatever's coming down the road here.
Thank you. Mr. Archer, 90 seconds.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Kelly Joe and the Volunteer Times for putting this forum on, and I appreciate it. Also, if we start early voting tomorrow, and if you don't exercise your right to vote, you ain't got no right. I don't care who you are. You better go vote. If you go vote, you got a right. If you don't like what I do, you see that sitting right here running. I try to, over the past 4 years, I'm retired. I've got time to spend, and I love the city of Lafollette. And that's all I want, to see it do the best it could be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. Mr. Bollinger, 90 seconds.
I too would like to thank you for having this forum. Thank the fellow candidates. A lot of good questions, a lot of good answers. I feel like that I'm qualified to do the job. I've been out talking to a lot of people in the neighborhoods and stuff. They've voiced a lot of concerns. I truly believe that they are looking for something a little different. I will offer that to them. If they will, they vote for me. I promise them that I'll do them a good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Mr. Evans, 90 seconds.
Thank you. I stand now because I want everyone in Lafollette to know that I will always stand strong for the citizens of this city. I believe in this city with all my heart, and I will always be attainable to any citizen that wants to talk. I will set up an email, just like I said when I first started campaigning August the 24th. I'll have an email, I'll have a phone number. I want the input from the citizens of this great city. I am a conservative Republican. I have stance on pro-life, and I have stance on the Second Amendment. That hasn't changed in 40 years, and it's not going to change now. I have no loyalty to any group. I have no loyalty to any individuals other than the citizens of this great city. That is what I am running for, and that is what I've said from the start. The first thing I said was, your vote, your voice. And if you will give me your vote, I will be your voice. I will be your voice every day, every week, every month. If you will just give me that opportunity, let's see if we can do things a little different.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Next up, Mr. Farmer, 90 seconds.
I just feel like I'm qualified to run for city council and be a council member and work with all the fellows and mayor on the council and work for the people of the city and do the best job I can. And I've been around here and seen a lot of changes in the years, and we've got more changes that need to be done, and we can do it if we work hard and get out there and do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Mr. Hatmaker.
Well, I want to let everybody know that I'm for the people, with the people, and it's always been that way for 22 years of my life that I've served them. And I didn't, it sort of teased me a little bit, the comment that the lady made there, said that there was only two people for the people. I've always been for the people. I've been out there in the snow. I've been out there and the vehicles couldn't get by, couldn't get up the hill, and be out there with them, helping them, working with the people, trying to get them their, whatever their need was, trying to help them with their need. And I'm just that way. I'm built that way. I've always done that, and I'll continue to do that. And the people here in the city have been good to me. I hold a record as far as being on city council longer than anybody. And so it's not one of them deals that anybody's going to give me anything. I don't know nothing that I need other than their vote to fix my life out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hatmaker. And last, Mr. Wilson, 90 minutes.
I would just like to say to the citizens that I would like 4 more years to continue to work and see the city progress and work with everybody. There's a lot of things that need to be done. I think I've proven that we can get it done. We built the RV park, downtown, other places, and the flood was awful, but that was a 100-year flood. And we're getting ready to try to straighten that out. And I'd appreciate everybody's vote, and we will make this city great in the future. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's forum with the Lafollette City Council candidates. We would like to thank everyone who tuned in, and we would personally like to thank each individual candidate who took their time to come down here and address these questions to the public. I thank you very much from the volunteer time staff. Thank you.